Welcome back to GooseTalk. I'm Vic, and this is The Deep Dive. We take your sources and pull out the insights that really matter. Today, we're talking about future-proofing your career. In this rapidly changing world, we'll be diving deep into an excerpt from the article, The Great ReSkill, to unearth those golden nuggets of knowledge. And to guide us through this complex topic, we have a true expert with us, Neil.
Thanks for having me.
Neil, you've helped countless individuals navigate career changes and professional development, and I'm thrilled to have you here today.
Oh, it's definitely a topic that's top of mind for so many these days.
Absolutely. Imagine this. You open your email on Monday morning, and there's a company-wide announcement about workforce transformation. Maybe some new technology is about to change everything.
Right.
Suddenly you're wondering, are my skills going to be obsolete?
Yeah.
How can I make sure I come out ahead? Well, that's exactly what we're here to explore.
Yeah, it's a very real concern. And the Great ReSkill article really hits the nail on the head. Job security is less about clinging to a specific job title and more about constantly adapting and learning new skills.
The article uses this interesting analogy of an open book test, where all the answers are out there. We just need to know where to look. So, Neil, where do we even begin to search for those answers?
Well, research is key. It's like detective work, really.
Okay.
Start by looking at job postings in your field, or even related fields that you might be interested in exploring. Pay close attention to the skills and qualifications that keep popping up again and again.
Okay.
Those recurring themes, those are your clues to what's in demand right now and what employers are looking for. Are there any emerging technologies mentioned? Specific software programs? Don't just glance at the titles, really dissect the language they're using.
So you're saying we should be playing keyword detective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is that you can actually start to predict future trends by paying close attention to these patterns.
All right.
For example, if you start seeing a lot of jobs requiring experience with data visualization tools, even in fields that aren't traditionally data heavy, that's a signal that data literacy is becoming increasingly important across the board.
That's a great point. So it's not just about knowing how to do the work. It's also about understanding the tools and technologies that are shaping the future of work, right?
Absolutely. The article highlights a few key areas that are in high demand right now: data analytics, AI, cybersecurity, and cloud computing. These might seem like tech skills, but they're becoming increasingly relevant in all sorts of industries.
Okay, so technical skills are clearly important, but the article also talks a lot about the importance of soft skills. What are those exactly, and why are they suddenly such a big deal?
Soft skills are those interpersonal qualities that allow you to interact effectively with others and thrive in a collaborative environment. Think communication, leadership, emotional intelligence, adaptability, problem solving. These skills have always been important, but they're becoming even more crucial in today's fast-paced digital workplace.
I'm curious, why the sudden emphasis on these soft skills?
Well, think about it. As teams become more distributed and global, as automation takes over routine tasks, the ability to communicate effectively, collaborate seamlessly, and adapt quickly becomes essential. It's no longer enough to just be technically proficient.
Right.
Employers are looking for individuals who can navigate complex situations, lead teams, and build strong relationships, both internally and externally.
So we need a blend of both hard skills and soft skills to really thrive in this new world of work. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, for someone who's been in the same role for a while,
Right.
all of this can feel a little overwhelming.
I know.
Where do we even begin to acquire all these new skills?
Well, the good news is you don't have to go back to school full time
Okay.
or completely overhaul your life to stay relevant. The key is to start small and be consistent. The article calls this snackable learning. Break it down into bite-sized pieces that you can fit into your busy schedule.
I love that snackable learning. It sounds way more appealing than cramming for a final exam.
Right.
So where do we find these learning snacks?
They're everywhere. A YouTube video on your commute, a podcast during your lunch break, a short online course a couple of nights a week. Consistency is more important than spending hours at a time.
You know, it's funny. By listening to this podcast, we're actually engaging in snackable learning right now.
That's right. And there are so many online resources available these days. Think Coursera, Udacity, ADX, even LinkedIn Learning. These platforms offer courses on just about any skill you can imagine, often for a very reasonable price, or even free.
Don't forget about company tuition reimbursement programs, too. A lot of employers are willing to invest in their employees' professional development.
That's such an important point. Many companies have these amazing resources just waiting to be tapped into.
Oh, okay.
They might offer internal training programs, workshops, mentorship opportunities, or even partnerships with online learning platforms. Sometimes these programs are advertised, but often they're not. Don't be afraid to ask your manager, your HR department, or even colleagues about what's available.
So we should be viewing our current companies as potential gold mines for professional development.
Absolutely. Your company has a vested interest in your growth. They want to retain their top talent, and they understand that investing in employee development is one of the best ways to do that.
The Great ReSkill article actually calls these internal development opportunities your company's best-kept secret.
Ooh. Why do you think companies don't advertise these programs more widely?
There are a few reasons. Sometimes it's about budget constraints,
Okay.
or maybe training and development just haven't been a top priority.
Hmm.
But often, companies are waiting for employees to express interest before investing heavily in specific initiatives. They want to know that you're motivated
Yeah.
and eager to learn new skills.
So the takeaway here is don't be shy. Ask about those opportunities.
Right.
Advocate for your own development. Now, let's say you've identified some skills you want to work on. The good news is you don't have to go back to school full time, right? Exactly. That snackable learning approach can be a game changer. Break down your learning into smaller, more manageable chunks. Watch a YouTube video on your commute. Listen to a podcast during your lunch break. Take a short online course after work a couple of nights a week.
Okay, so we've got the snackable learning strategy down. But what if you want to get some real-world experience with those new skills before making a big career leap? The article suggests something called the side hustle. What do you think about that?
I think a side hustle can be a fantastic way to gain practical experience
Mm,
in a new field without quitting your job. It's like a low-risk experiment.
okay.
You can try out different types of work, build your portfolio, and see if it's something you really enjoy.
There are so many platforms that make it easier than ever to find freelance work. The article mentions Upwork and Fiverr as great places to start.
Right, and think about it. You're not just gaining skills, you're potentially earning some extra income.
Right.
You're building your professional network. The article calls it training with benefits.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect description.
It's a win-win. You get to explore new possibilities without making a huge commitment. And even if you decide that particular type of work isn't for you, it's a lot easier to pivot than if you had made a full career switch.
Exactly. And you'll still have gained valuable experience and skills that you can apply elsewhere.
So Neil, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about research, snackable learning, leveraging company resources, even starting a side hustle. What would you say is the biggest takeaway from all of this?
I think the key message is this: be open to change and embrace lifelong learning. The job market is constantly evolving, and the only way to future-proof your career is to constantly develop new skills, adapt to the changing demands, and be proactive about your own growth.
That's a fantastic point. Be adaptable, be a lifelong learner, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Exactly. It's all about taking ownership of your career journey and being prepared for whatever the future holds.
We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll be diving into some more practical tips from the Great ReSkill on how to actually put all of this into action. Stay with us. We're back and ready to dig even deeper into future-proofing your career. Neil, before the break, we were talking about snackable learning and all those amazing online resources.
Right.
But the Great ReSkill article also talks about the importance of mentors and networks.
Yeah.
How do those fit into the equation?
Mentors and networks are absolutely crucial when it comes to career development.
Okay.
A mentor can provide guidance, support, and insights you might not be able to get anywhere else. They've been there, done that. They can help you identify your strengths and weaknesses, connect you with opportunities, and offer advice based on their own experiences.
So how do we find these amazing mentors? Should we just start cold emailing CEOs?
It doesn't have to be that intimidating. Start by looking within your own network. Is there someone whose career path you really admire? Maybe a former professor, a colleague, or even someone you've connected with on LinkedIn. Reach out and see if they'd be willing to have a conversation with you about their journey.
That makes sense. You don't have to have a formal mentor-mentee relationship to benefit from someone's experience.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of informal mentorship.
Okay.
Pay attention to the people around you who are doing great work. Try to learn from them, ask questions, observe their approach, and see if you can apply some of their techniques to your own work. Sometimes the best mentors are the people we interact with every day.
What about networks? The article talks about joining communities like LinkedIn groups or online forums. How can those be helpful for career development?
Networking is all about building relationships and connecting with people who share your interests or work in your field.
Okay.
Online communities can be a great way to learn from others, stay up to date on industry trends, and even discover job opportunities you might not have found otherwise.
So it's not just about attending those stuffy networking events and handing out business cards anymore.
Definitely not. Networking has evolved. It's about engaging in meaningful conversations,
Okay.
sharing knowledge, and supporting each other. Online communities make it easier than ever to connect with people from all over the world and build relationships based on shared interests and goals.
This ties back to what we were talking about earlier, being proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Find mentors, build your networks, and engage with communities that are relevant to your career goals.
Exactly. And remember, networking is not just about what you can get from others, it's also about what you can contribute.
Right.
Be helpful, share your knowledge, and be a valuable member of the community.
There's one part of the great ReSkill article that really stuck with me. It says we need to rethink what success looks like. What do you think they mean by that?
I think they're challenging that traditional notion of a linear career path, the idea that you climb the corporate ladder, stay with one company for your entire career, and then retire with a gold watch.
Right.
That model just doesn't hold true for many people anymore.
Especially in the tech world, it seems like people are constantly switching companies and roles.
Right. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. The article talks about the rise of what's called the portfolio career, where people have a diverse mix of skills and experiences that they can apply to a variety of different roles or projects.
So instead of thinking of our careers as a straight line, maybe we should be thinking of them as more of a jungle gym, climbing in different directions, trying new things, and developing a wide range of skills.
I love that analogy. A jungle gym is a much more accurate representation of how careers evolve today. And it's more exciting, too. You have the freedom to explore different paths, try new things, and discover what truly motivates you.
The article also talks about being adaptable and being willing to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
That can feel a little daunting, especially if you've been in the same role for a while.
I understand that. Change can be scary, but it's also an opportunity for growth. Think of it this way. The specific skills you're using today might not be relevant in 5 or 10 years, but the ability to learn, adapt, and reinvent yourself will always be valuable. That's the true future-proofing.
So how can we become more adaptable and embrace that idea of reinvention?
It starts with a mindset shift. Be open to new experiences. Be curious about different industries and different roles, even if they seem outside of your comfort zone. And remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Start by making small changes, exploring new interests, and expanding your network.
This all comes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's all about lifelong learning.
Exactly. The world is changing too rapidly for us to just rest on our laurels. We need to be continuously learning, evolving, and adapting.
The Great ReSkill ends with a really powerful quote that sums it all up. The illiterate of the 21st century won't be those who can't read and write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn.
That is a powerful quote. It really highlights the importance of continuous learning and adaptability in today's world. The ability to unlearn old ways of thinking and embrace new ideas is essential for success in any field.
We've given our listeners a lot to think about. Before we move on, let's do a quick recap. We've talked about research, snackable learning, leveraging company resources, mentors, networks, and even the idea of reinventing ourselves.
Yeah.
Sounds like personal branding is a big part of this, too. Let's jump into that after a quick break.
We're back and ready to tackle the final piece of the future-proofing puzzle.
Personal branding in the digital age.
Yes.
Neil, I have to admit, this whole concept of branding myself feels a bit, I don't know, self-promotion-y.
I understand where you're coming from. A lot of people feel that way. But think of it this way. Your personal brand isn't about bragging or creating a fake persona.
Right.
It's simply the story you tell about yourself, your skills, and your value in a crowded job market. Having a strong personal brand can help you stand out, attract opportunities, and build a network of people who are genuinely interested in what you have to offer.
So it's less about boasting and more about showcasing what makes you unique and valuable.
Exactly. It's about highlighting your strengths, your passions, and what you bring to the table. And it's not just about having a polished LinkedIn profile.
Right.
It's about showing up authentically, online and offline, building relationships, and demonstrating your expertise in a way that feels genuine and true to who you are.
Okay, so where do we even begin with this whole personal branding thing? Do we need professional headshots and a carefully crafted elevator pitch?
You don't have to go that far. Start by thinking about your target audience.
Oh, okay.
Who are you trying to reach? What kind of impression do you want to make? Once you have a clear idea of your brand, you can start to build your online presence in a way that reflects those goals.
So we're talking LinkedIn, Twitter, maybe even starting a blog or a podcast.
Those are all great platforms for sharing your thoughts, connecting with others in your field, and establishing yourself as a thought leader. But remember, it's not just about broadcasting your message. It's about engaging in conversations, listening to others, and building real relationships.
This all ties back to what we were talking about earlier with networking.
Yeah.
It's not just about collecting business cards anymore. It's about building a community of people who know, and trust you.
Absolutely. And in today's digital world, your online network is just as important as your offline network. In fact, they often overlap.
So how do we make sure our online presence is working for us, not against us? Any tips for navigating this digital networking landscape?
First and foremost, be authentic. People can spot a fake from a mile away. Share your genuine interests. Engage in thoughtful conversations. And don't be afraid to let your personality shine through. Remember, quality over quantity. It's better to have a smaller network of people who are genuinely interested in what you have to say than a huge following of people who are just scrolling through their feeds.
So it's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the most genuine and engaging.
Exactly. And don't forget to give back to your network. Share other people's content. Offer helpful advice. And be a supportive member of the community. Networking is a two-way street.
Neil, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. We've explored research, snackable learning, company resources, mentors, networks, personal branding. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners on how to not just survive, but thrive in this ever-changing career landscape?
Be curious, be adaptable, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there, network, build relationships, and never stop learning. The future belongs to those who are willing to embrace change and create their own opportunities.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Wow. Neil, thanks so much for joining us on the Deep Dive. This has been an incredible conversation.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into future-proofing your career. We hope you've learned some valuable tips, had some aha moments, and are feeling inspired to take action. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends, colleagues, or anyone who might find it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to GooseTalk for more deep dives into the topics that matter most to you. You can also find us on LinkedIn and our website. Just search for Goose ITTC. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.